What's up, guys? Derek, moreplatesmoredates.com. Today we're going to be talking about Dorian Yates. And his genetics specifically. So, a lot of, opinions are circulated around Dorian Yates' work ethic and how he's an example of hard work beating talent, and when I say talent, I mean genetics. It's commonly referred to as talent, and how basically he was just such a hard worker in the gym that it allowed him to be a top Mr. Olympia competitor and then, win the Olympia. What was it? 6 times? Could be wrong. I think it was 6. But win that many times based purely on the fact that he just was trained so intense. He was so diehard about bodybuilding, and that's like what separated him from the rest. This couldn't be further from the truth, to be honest. And I think it's funny how people really take this to heart and think it's serious, because Dorian Yates had some of the best genetics in the history of bodybuilding. Now, people might look at his muscle insert shape and say, oh, well, look at his biceps. Look at this, look at that, which is pretty much the only body part you can knock on him. But they'll say, look at this, and this is bad. This is not good genetics. What he did to become a Mr. Olympia is just indicative of how he just worked way harder than everyone else and just went to that next level, and that's how he became Mr. Olympia. That's just not true. Like, this is Dorian Yates before he started training. This is Dorian Yates after 9 months of training. The guy is bigger than me already after 9 months. And I've been training for almost 10 years and I don't look like this. This is another perfect example of a guy who hyper responds to training and drugs. Like, I've talked about this many times before. You'll know after your first cycle if you have Mr. Olympia caliber genetics. The same holds true for Dorian Yates. This guy just completely exploded after taking bodybuilding seriously and going hard into it. Is this to knock his work ethic or say it wasn't good? No, he obviously was probably the hardest worker in the room, and maybe he even did train harder than these other guys who he competed against. But in bodybuilding, training is not like, unless you're lazy as hell, it's not very hard to go to failure on an exercise. Like, it doesn't take that much mental fortitude to go to failure, in my opinion. Like, I go to the gym 5 days a week. I train hard. I go literally until my muscle fails and I can't even lift the weight anymore. That's failure. You can't really go harder than that unless you have a spotter who assists you through partial reps and forced reps past failure. But failure is failure. And I'm sure a lot of you guys train to failure. And it's one thing, saying if you're actually lazy and just go in and move weights around and don't even stress the muscle to the point of muscular failure, then yeah, you're just lazy. But the fact of the matter is you don't need to unlock some next tier mental state to be able to train hard. And it's not the separating factor between who becomes Mr. Olympia and who isn't, in my opinion. This guy is an example of elite caliber genetics and hyper responding to bodybuilding and the bodybuilding lifestyle. Was his diet immaculate and his training immaculate? Yeah, obviously, because those are the stimulus. That's the stimulus you need to break down muscle tissue, and that's the nutrition you need to recover muscle tissue. But the hyper responding to those and in unison with the drugs in particular is exactly what happened with Dorian Yates. If you have, delusions of trying to become Mr. Olympia and you think you're just going to sauce yourself to the gills and train harder than the next guy and you're going to get there because Dorian Yates did it and he had bad genetics and he's an example of how hard work can beat out genetics and blah, blah, blah. It's just not the case. The guy had the nuttiest genetics ever, and I have no idea where this misconception came that he has bad genetics, because they're insane. They're top 5 in the history of bodybuilding. So anyways, kind of an interesting video to look at. I don't know if you've ever seen that picture of him after 9 months of training, but if you haven't, it's pretty enlightening to say the least. It can really blow up some egos of some guys who've been training for 10 plus years and barely even look better than that after Dorian was training for 9 months. So if that's the case, bodybuilding is your dream, just take it with a grain of salt, realistically, because some guys get deluded about, they think the next cycle is the magic cycle and they're just going to blow up and use this compound and then they'll blow up, or they just need to work harder in the gym because they're just not training hard enough. You got to be like Dorian, being black and white and underground dungeon in order to make gains, and it's just not the case. Like, train hard, train proper, don't injure yourself, eat proper nutrition and recover, and if you're a hyper responder, then great. Like, ride it out and take advantage of it and compete at the highest level, by all means. But if you just have average genetics, which you more than likely do, just don't kill yourself chasing something that's unachievable, because this is like one of the #1 sports that you have to give yourself a reality check in, because there's a lot of guys that literally will die at like 30 to 40 years old chasing this dream, and it's a pipe dream. It's just never going to happen. Like, you know, within a year if you have Mr. Olympia genetics or not, and if you don't, then you might want to reconsider what you're doing. So anyways, just a little video for you guys about genetics. I know you guys know I love that subject, and hopefully you found it informative, enlightening, whatever, entertaining. Hit that like, subscribe button, notification bell if you want to stay updated when I post new videos. Check out my blog, moreplatesmoredates.com. Talk to you guys soon.